Okay. Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and today we are tackling a question that's been on a lot of retro collectors' minds, and it's a question that has recently come up in one of my live video sessions. And the question is, what is the deal with GameStop Retro and the retro games that they have to offer in 2025? Now, a year ago, there was a lot of buzz and some confusion, even a little hope about GameStop's dive back into classic gaming. But where are we now? Has anything actually changed? And more importantly, is it still worth your time and money to hunt for retro games at your local GameStop? I mean, we're going to find out. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, see, a year ago, things were very different. So if you can cast your mind back to, like, say, mid 2024, GameStop made some waves. I mean, after years of mostly shedding their old inventory, they announced a renewed focus on retro gaming. And we heard talk of GameStop retro stores and dedicated sections for retro, and a general push to kind of leverage the whole nostalgia play. And the idea was to attract collectors, offer a physical hub for older games, and perhaps even create a community around it. But see, the promise was appealing, and potentially more availability, competitive pricing, and the chance to actually see the games before you buy them, unlike, when you're buying games online. It was somewhat appealing, especially to collectors. And some stores even started getting specific retro game allocations. Like, we started to see more retro games in the stores. And it felt like GameStop was finally acknowledging the massive retro market, because it's still alive and kicking today. Now, you did have some dedicated retro stores, right? GameStop did roll out some designated retro GameStop locations, and they even posted it onto their website. However, these were often far and few between. Like, these stores weren't in abundance, and in some cases, some cities never even got them. So unless you lived in a major metro area with one nearby, it's likely not a convenient option for your regular hunting grounds if you're someone who has like a regular video game hunting schedule. Now, the retro store locator on their website was a good idea, but the density isn't there yet for most people. And I've actually seen this mentioned in a lot of my different videos in the comment section. And I've also even kind of heard this in some of my live video sessions. Now, for the average GameStop, the retro selection is still hit or miss. While they are technically taking in more retro trades than they were a few years ago, the stock tends to be pretty inconsistent. Like, you might find a few Wii games, maybe some PS2 titles, but rarely anything truly rare or high value. And the quality, that is probably still the biggest gamble. I mean, we're talking loose cartridges, missing manuals, and discs that may or may not be resurfaced properly. And then we got to get to the pricing. See, this is where it starts to get very interesting. Now, GameStop's pricing for retro games has, in many cases, increased. While there used to be a place where you could occasionally snag a deal well under market value, especially for some of the common titles, those days are fading. Many community members have reported that GameStop's retro prices are now often in line with, or sometimes above, what you would find on eBay or at dedicated local retro stores. Even for disc-only or cart-only games, the cap price for trade-ins and sales has also apparently shifted upwards for some categories, so it's still a little bit of a mixed bag. Now, online sales are a little bit different. GameStop's online retro inventory exists, but it is truly a crapshoot. Without seeing the condition, you're rolling the dice on what you're going to receive. Many collectors have shared stories of receiving games in poor condition or simply disc/cartridge only when they might have hoped for the case or hoped for something complete in box. And then we got to deal with the staff knowledge, because there's still a little bit of a gap there. I mean, while there was talk of better training for staff on authenticating and grading retro games, anecdotal evidence suggests that this is largely still a very inconsistent process at most GameStop stores. You're more likely to find a knowledgeable employee at a dedicated retro game store than at your average branch. So, considering all this, the big question is it still worth it? What are the pros and cons? Well, convenience, right? If we look at the pros, one of the biggest pros is convenience, and that's a sometimes type of thing, right? If you happen to live near a dedicated retro GameStop store, or if your local GameStop surprisingly has a decent, well-maintained retro section, it can be a convenient way to browse for physical games and add some physical games to your collection. The other pro is that there's instant gratification. No shipping waits, no auction bidding. If you find something that you want and the price is right, you could just take it home immediately. And that's definitely a huge plus. And then there's still that potential for undervalued games, but it's becoming more and more rare. There's still that tiny chance of an employee mispricing something or a gem being traded in by someone who doesn't know its true value, but that's becoming a true needle in the haystack, and the thrill of the hunt is still kind of more exciting than what you might actually find at a store. And then the last pro is going to be returns. GameStop's return policy offers some peace of mind if you receive a damaged or non-working item, which is definitely an advantage over some of the private sellers or anything that you might want to do online. Now let's talk about the cons. So first con is going to be inconsistent stock and quality. This is the biggest hurdle. I mean, you'll spend a lot of time and gas money visiting stores only to find a very limited, often low quality section. Then you have pricing creep. So GameStop's retro prices are generally no longer the deals they once were. They're often at or above market value, which we spoke about earlier, and especially for the more sought after titles, get ready to pull the wallet out. And then there's the lack of cases and manuals. I mean, you can expect loose cartridges without a shadow of a doubt, and discs without their original cases or manuals for a significant portion of the retro stock, especially for, cartridge-based systems. I mean, you can just expect to only get the cartridge. Do not expect to get, a cardboard box with the game in it. But you'll probably find more complete in-box disc-based games. And then another con is the limited high-value games. So it's very rare that you find something, of high value. Don't go in expecting to find rare or highly collectible games often, because those tend to go to either the dedicated retro shops or to private sales. So GameStop actually kind of moves away some of the high dollar stuff. Now, every once in a while, you may jump online and find something super rare like a Misadventures of Tron Bonne or a Haunting Grounds or Mega Man X3 or Earthbound, but that is very few and far between. And then another con is the term refurbished. A lot of times GameStop will label things as refurbished, but I mean, a lot of times the consoles and the games really need cleaning. In fact, I've noticed that the refurbished items tend to be in worse condition than just their general pre-owned items. So take that for what you will. Now, are there alternatives to GameStop in 2025? I mean, if GameStop isn't consistently delivering, where should you be looking for your retro games in 2025? So there's a few options. One is dedicated local retro game stores. These are often your best bet. They specialize in retro. Usually they have a knowledgeable staff. The games are often clean, they're tested, their inventory is accurate. The prices may be a little bit higher, and you might not be as lucky, when you go into a GameStop finding something underpriced, but usually you're getting a superior product. Another option is, of course, going to be your online marketplaces, eBay, Mercari, still the king of specific titles. I mean, if you want something very specific, I would say still go online, because you're going to know what you want, you're going to get what you want, you're going to get it in the condition that you want, and it's just going to be the best option for you. You still have the local flea markets, thrift stores, garage sales, things of that nature, but that feels more like a treasure hunt. And a lot of times you're going to spend more time sifting through junk than actually finding kind of the games that you want to get. So if you're just into hunting, that's still a great option for you. Then you have the retro gaming conventions and expos. These are great for like a huge selection of higher value, very rare games, rare titles. Those are a great place to go if you want to kind of get that stuff. And then you always have your online communities, Facebook, connecting with local collectors, trading, finding games online, a bunch of things like that. Those are definitely still your options. Now, in conclusion, GameStop's retro strategy in 2025 is what I would call a work in progress. I think it's still something that they're trying to figure out, and I don't know if they've quite hit the nail yet. While they've made some efforts, the reality for most collectors is that it's still a very inconsistent and often less than ideal place to find retro games. These days, cheap, easily accessible retro gems at GameStop seem to be largely over. I don't think you're going to find a lot of really great deals. And these actually have been replaced by prices that are more often mirroring what you see on eBay or in the broader inflated retro market, but with less certainty on condition and completeness. So you kind of have to weigh those options there and really kind of figure out how you feel about that. And my honest take, while it's always worth a quick look if you're already at a GameStop for something else, it doesn't hurt to look and check out their retro game store. But I wouldn't make it your primary destination for game hunting for specific games. You may want to stick with, your more dedicated mom and pop shops. You may want to stick with Facebook Marketplace or flea markets, anything that can kind of guarantee you what you're looking for. But that's just my opinion. You guys let me know in the comments down below, though. What have your experiences been with GameStop retro, especially lately here in 2025? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Before we go, I do want to send a quick shout out to my recent channel membership subscribers. We have a few folks who have joined the Y2K community, and I did want to go ahead and give them a shout out for joining the community. First is Jay Turn. He joined 2 days ago, so shout out to you. Thank you for joining the community. And Jeremy _ PNW. So appreciate you both for joining the community. I am going to be dropping a members only video for tomorrow, so you guys be on the lookout for that. And that does it for me. Hopefully you all are enjoying your 4th of July holiday weekend, and I will catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.